Tim P, thanks to you, mate. Super cool. Bringing out the big guns. Got my coolant hose attached to this. Bump stop's going to be really loose.
Once I put this back in, it should work in theory. No, not working.
I give up. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes and today I'm going to be heading round to my other garage to crack on with a few jobs on Maude, my Moredoor Mk2 Escort. But before I go and get her out of the garage, I've got some things to show you here at home. The first of which is this. Now what this is a plate that's welded to the inner wing of a Mk2 Escort where the bumper iron bolts through. If you've been watching my videos, you'll know that my latest project is currently in the very capable hands of Chris Kember at Clump Fab, who is taking care of a bit of rust repair, adding some RS strengthening plates and bolting on the new wings. One of the bits that I wasn't planning to get Chris to sort out, but he decided he wants to sort out, was a bit of previous welding that had been done on the driver's side inner wing. And it's in that area of the inner wing that this plate is welded to. The one that's currently on the car is a bit of a mess. It's got loads and loads of welds all over it. So it would have been a nightmare for Chris to unpick that plate from the old inner wing and weld it to the bit that he's going to fabricate to replace that part of the inner wing. So yeah, this is going to come in really handy. Now this was actually sent to me by a guy called Tim P. Massive shout out and a thanks to you, mate. Now Tim bought a pair of these, but he only needed to repair his passenger side inner wing, which is why he had this one laying around spare. Tim also very kindly sent me this really cool Mk2 Escort Mexico model, which I'll just get out so you can see it better. Super cool with the front spoiler on it. The rear spoiler is unfortunately missing. And this model's really heavy actually. Absolutely love this model, and it will of course be treasured with the rest of my models forever. Tim also sent me a really nice letter, which I've already put away with all the other letters that you guys have sent me. So yeah, I want to send a massive thanks out to Tim for that plate for the new projects inner wing and the model car. I really appreciate it. Now with all that being said, it's time for me to get Maude out of the garage and hit the road.
You'll be pleased to know that the brace that I recently fitted to Maude's bike carbs is still doing its job, which I'm really happy about. I haven't done anything about her radiator leak yet though. Loads of you have been in touch to give me your suggestions of a budget rad for Maude, so massive thanks to everyone who did reach out. I did actually win a used standard Escort radiator on eBay the other day, but that hasn't arrived yet. The seller said that he hasn't got any leaks, and I only paid a tenner for it, so it's worth a punt.
Alright, so I've made it to the garage and I've got Maude jacked up and I've already removed all four wheels. And the first thing I want to crack on with today is putting some sealer on the half shafts to help keep the LSD oil inside the axle. Oops, should have made sure that this side was higher than the other side. Now I am aware that you're not supposed to put sealer on these, but they always seem to leak. You just rely on the O-ring on the bearings, squirt a brake cleaner. Rough it up a bit, might make the sealer work a bit better, also might not. Might as well do the same in here. Bringing out the big guns, CT1 building sealant. Don't want to use too much of this. Alright, so that's one down, one to go. I'll catch back up with you when I've done the other side. So the other side's done. I've also topped up the diff oil, it didn't need a lot. And now I want to change the bushes on the anti-roll bar. You can see there's definitely a gap there And yeah, there's some weird stuff going on with the front suspension. Definitely get a bit of a knocking sound over bumps, and as I've mentioned before, the steering sort of veers to one side and then sometimes the other side. I think some of the knocking is to do with this bonnet, because I don't have the bump stops fitted. I'm going to fit those today as well. But yeah, change the anti-roll bar bushes first. I've gone for these Super Pro ones that I got on eBay. I thought if I'm going to be changing these ones, I may as well change the bushes that go here as well. And that's what these are. We've got these nuts here to undo, and we've got the bolts holding these double width clamps on to undo. And then we can pull the anti-roll bar off. So these ones are 24mm. And then these ones are 17s. Oh, got my coolant hose attached to this. Alright, take the old bushes off and the washers. I've got new ones of them as well. These do have a slit in them, but they've sort of melted together. You get this lube in the kit. And then for the ones for the ends, ones like that and ones like that, and they'll sort of slot together like that. And you've also got this metal sleeve thing. I think you're supposed to put this one on first. Put the sleeve in there. I'm gonna slide that on, but I'll lube it all up. These clamp things back on to hold the anti-roll bar up. Just put one bolt in for now. And then we'll slide this in, which can be a pain sometimes to get in. Oh, that looks good. And then another brand new washer, and then a brand new castle nut. Exactly the same the other side. So I've got everything bolted up loose now. It seems like the anti-roll bar needs to come this way a bit, because it's right on the bend there. But on the other side, yeah, it just seems like the anti-roll bar is sticking out further this way. So yeah, I need to centralise this before I do the bolts up, but I do want to consult my Aaaand manual to get the correct torques anyway. The anti-roll bar clamp to the bracket should be 15 to 18 foot-pounds, and the anti-roll bar to the track control arm should be 25 to 30 foot-pounds. That's the one with the castle nut. But these little stars next to it means that you need to tighten those up when the wheels are on the ground. So I'll just see if I can get the anti-roll bar central and just nip them up, and then we'll worry about torquing them up once I get the car back on the ground. Let's loosen these up. Give it a whack. Maybe it'll centralise itself once the weight of the car is on it. Let's leave that for now then. It's all on at least. Alright, let's pop the bonnet. Now I was planning to fit the bump stops today, which go here and stop the bonnet vibrating about as much. Now on Mark 1s, the bump stop's actually attached to the bonnet themselves, up here somewhere, and the carbon fibre bonnet that I've got on my Mark 1 had riv nuts in the bonnet which accepted a bolt this size. Now I've cheaped out, just like I did with the Mark 1, and I've just bought the rubbers rather than buying the correct type bolts, which are, you know, they're a bolt but they've got a really flat sort of head on them, and that sort of slots into the groove that's in these. Don't know if that's going to show up on camera. What I did with the Mark 1 is I just basically screwed these into the bonnet and then glued these rubber bump stops onto them, so they were like that. But a Mark II's got a smaller thread, so it uses a bolt like this. And the rubber bump stop's going to be really loose. So I may actually end up having to bite the bullet and buy the correct type bolts to do this. I will have a go at trying to glue them on to those hex bolts, but yeah, I'll have to be careful when I open the bonnet and make sure that the rubbers don't get lost. Just add a washer and a nut to this so we can adjust it and then lock it off. This bolt might actually be too long, but I think there's plenty of room beneath there anyway. Now this bonnet is a bit twisted anyway. The front of it's sort of bent up. I'm not going to worry about trying to make the bonnet straight. But yeah, this seemed like it needed to go up a little bit. It's definitely going to vibrate a lot less. I'll tell you what, that is a hell of a lot better. Doesn't vibrate at all. This one could do with coming up slightly. Happy with that. We'll just chuck a load of this CT1 in these and stick them on and hope that they stay on. I'm not holding my breath that is going to hold them on there, but ultimately when the bonnet's shut, the rubbers won't be able to ping off anyway. It's only when I open the bonnet, I've just got to make sure that the rubbers are still in place before I shut it again. Anyway, next on the list, I'm going to give this engine an oil change. It's well overdue. I haven't actually changed the oil since I fitted this. I normally like to change the oil soon after I get a new engine running. But yeah, I haven't done it yet, so I'm going to crack on with that now. I think I'll just run the engine for 5 minutes, get the oil nice and thin. Right, while she's warming up, I want to have a look at the speedo cable that hasn't worked for a while. Pulled it out the back of the clocks. I think when I removed the clocks when I was messing around with the dash. And yeah, when I push this cable all the way in, it doesn't spin when I put the car in gear. So it's obviously come out at the gearbox end. I can't remember which order you're supposed to do it in, whether you're supposed to put it in the gearbox end first and then the clock end. But yeah, as I say, it's not spinning from the gearbox end, so maybe the inner cable is broken or maybe it's not in properly. So I'm going to get underneath and make sure the gearbox end is correct. Use these circlip pliers. Pull the clip out. Now I think I'll hook it up to the clocks and then the cable should be poking out enough at the gearbox end so that it'll work. Yeah, see the inner cable sticking out now. So in theory, once I put this back in, it should work. In theory, he says. Put her in gear. No, it's not working. It's not broken because I'm spinning the gearbox end and it's spinning the speedo end. Maybe I didn't get this end into the clocks right last time. Might not have gone on all the way. So I've put the end in the clocks and I'm spinning the other end with my hands. Definitely doing something. I think what I'll do is I'll pull this out and then we'll make sure this is in the back of the clocks properly. Right, so that's in properly. Now we can slide the outer bit onto the clocks. Alright. Oh, that's definitely in. So now we'll put the cable back into the gearbox. And now it should work. Still still not working. I give up with the speedo cable. I've just tried to refit it again. I made sure that it was in the back of the clock properly, made sure that it was in the gearbox end properly, and yeah, it doesn't work. But I'm cracking on with the oil change now. Alright, we'll take the oil cap off, just to help the oil flow out of the sump plug better. See if I can do the filter from above. Over tighten this. Oh yeah, that'd be me. Oh man, that's tight. Got this chain tool thing. Never lets me down. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, there she goes. One genuine Ford oil filter out, and another genuine Ford oil filter going in, purchased from my friends at Burton Power, and as always I'll leave a link to their website in the description. Just put a bit of oil on the seal and screw it on. Probably way tighter than it should be, as usual. And she's getting some Shell Helix Ultra, fully synthetic, 5W30. That'll do. Sort of 2/3 of the way between minimum and max. Alright, so with the oil change done, I'm going to get Maude back on the ground and then we can torque up the anti-roll bar. Just going to nip them all up first. Not really pulling in how it should. This side of the bush looks how it should be, but this side isn't. That's better. Got a feeling you're not supposed to leave them quite this loose until you put the wheels on the ground, but washers around the wrong way. Those washers are around the wrong way. Alright, I'll catch back up with you when I've got the anti-roll bar back on with the washers around the correct way. Alright, I'm back where I was before. Yeah, it actually wasn't too much of a mission. Because I've got the rose jointed adjustable track control arms, when the anti-roll bar isn't connected, there's movement backwards and forwards on the track control arm. So I was able to do one side at a time, just needed to take all the bolts out of the clamp, and then once I'd taken the castle nut off the back, I was actually able to move the track control arm off of the anti-roll bar. So yeah, I was able to do one side at a time rather than pulling the whole anti-roll bar off. But yeah, got the washers around the right way now. Just to remind myself, anti-roll bar clamp is 15 to 18. I'll do 18. Ooh, we got a cross-threaded one. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh well, so I'll have to rely on 3 of them. And anti-roll bar to track control arm is 25 to 30. 30. It's got really deformed there. Oh well. Alright, so I just loosened the castle nuts back off and then retightened them to 25 foot-pounds instead of 30, just so that the bush isn't quite as deformed, and in the book it said 25 to 30 anyway. Now I did plan to do a couple of other little jobs today, but I think I'm going to call it a day before it gets dark. I want to pack up and try and get back on the road while it's still daylight, and I'll tell you if she feels any different than she did before.
Well, I'm back on the road and I can still hear knocking from the driver's side front. I think some of the noise from before was the bonnet. It seemed a little bit better. But yeah, there's something going on with the suspension or the steering. But I'm in a bit of a catch-22. I don't want to buy a new quick rack. I do think the rack has got a bit of play, but I don't want to buy a new quick rack because when I get the suspension that I want, I'm going to be fitting shorter steering arms to gain lock, and that's going to mean that this rack's going to be too quick. I do have a stock rack in my garage that was only on this car for a couple of months before I switched to the quick rack, so I'll be able to fit that when the time comes. When I put the shorter steering arms on, the stock rack will feel like a quick rack, if that makes sense. Another thing, the driver's side front strut, the nut at the top, when you try and do it up with the wheels on the ground, the insert just spins. Now the nut that holds the insert into the strut is definitely tight. So yeah, I'm not sure if maybe the shock is gone on this side. They're gas struts, so it's not like you can, you know, look for a leak like you could with the oil-filled ones. So yeah, and I don't want to put another set of Spax inserts in these because, as I say, I am planning on changing the front suspension. I've changed the anti-roll bar bushes because obviously even when I change my suspension, that anti-roll bar will be staying, so that wasn't a waste of time. So yeah, I'm pretty much gonna live with the fact that this doesn't drive perfectly until I get my front suspension and switch the rack and stuff, and then see where I'm at then. I noticed that the driver's side rear wheel has got the balancing weight missing. This car does vibrate a lot at high speed, but again, I think that's at least partly to do with what's going on at the front. But yeah, it's obviously not ideal having that rear wheel not balanced. So yeah, plenty still to do on this car, and I will get to it all. Today's jobs, you know, they weren't the most exciting things, but it's all part and parcel of driving an old banger like this every day. You know, you have to deal with the boring stuff as well as all the exciting mods and stuff. But yeah, she's running. She's got fresh oil in her. Her diff oil may now stay in the axle, so. And she rips. For such a simple setup anyway. Kat did tell me that my new radiator came today, so that's something that I'll be able to fit in the next couple of days. Hopefully then she'll stop leaking coolant. But I think this evening we're going to take a trip down to Chelsea to check out the cruise. It's probably going to be really quiet, but when I get there I'll make a little montage of the cars that are there. But before I switch the camera off, I've got a bit of open road coming up, so might as well make some noise.
Alright, so back home after Chelsea cruise, there wasn't loads of cars out, but there was definitely more than I was expecting. A lot of people don't bother bringing their classics out at this time of the year, and there was actually quite a few Escorts out tonight as well, which is cool. One thing I forgot to mention about Maude when I was on the way home from the garage earlier is the steering wheel wobble is vastly improved. So that was obviously at least partly being caused by the old anti-roll bar bushes. As I've mentioned, still plenty planned to do on Maude over the coming weeks and months. And I will, of course, share it all with you guys on the channel. So that's all I've got for this video. Before I go, I want to send another massive thanks out to Tim Pete for the plate for the new project's inner wing and for the really cool model car that you sent me. I really appreciate it. Other than that, if you thought this video was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe to keep up to date with all my future uploads, and check the links in the description to my social media and my website. I'll also leave my email address down there for anyone who wants to contact me. Massive thanks as always to each and every one of you for your continued support of my channel. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.